So there's big four. There's PwC, EY, KPMG, and Deloitte, and I work in one of them. And I've been there for 5 years. So I was on the grad scheme for 2 years, and then I've now been a senior consultant for I think 2.5 years. Yes, so I'm currently 4.5 years into the firm. And then I noticed something, that for a grad to become a senior consultant, they need to be showing that they're already performing at a senior consultant level. So at your senior consultant promotion panel, you are assessed not as a grad, but as a senior consultant. And when you've ticked the boxes, then you then get the formal promotion to senior consultant. Same thing for manager. To become a manager, it's not that you have to be a great senior consultant then you become a manager. No, you have to be a great senior consultant that is already acting like a manager, doing everything a manager should be doing, then you become a manager. And it goes like that for the other ranks in the firm, so senior manager, director, partner, etc. You have to prove yourself before you get the title. 33 deadly career mistakes and how to avoid them. Let's get started. Number 1, not having clear career goals. A lot of people think they have career goals, but those are really, really bad goals, and they are not really goals. They're just vague ideas at best. So sometimes you'd see someone and you ask them, what's your career goal? And they would say, well, I want to be a top developer, or I want to be a famous producer, or I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be a CEO, I want to be a successful CEO. But those things are really vague, really, really vague. They're not specific, they're not clear. And that's the number 1 mistake, to not know what you're looking for. I have a friend, he's a very talented producer, goes by the name David. Very, very, very talented. Everyone tells him this, and I do think it's true. And when you see the kind of stuff he posts on social media, you have the idea that he does want to achieve a lot for himself, and rightfully so. But anytime I've asked him, so what are your goals? Like, what do you want out of this? You're creating a lot of stuff casually, even working with some people sometimes, but what do you want? And he's like, I just want to blow. I want to blow, meaning he wants to blow up and he wants to excel. And I don't know, it's a very vague term. So I've always asked him, what do you mean by, I want to blow? What does blowing look like for you? And I remember one time he answered me with like, well, when you blow, you've blown. Like, no one's gonna have to tell you. Like, once someone blows, they blow. And I'm like, you're not answering my question. What does it mean to blow? What does it mean to blow up? Clearly you want to be successful, but what does that look like? What metric are you tracking that will let you know, okay, I've made it? Is it an amount of money? Have you blown when you're making X amount on a regular basis? Have you blown the moment you feature someone prominent on your track? What does it mean? And so I know a lot of people want to excel in their careers. They want to get to the upper echelons of whatever field they're in. But when you ask, okay, well, what does that mean? What does excelling look like to you? They don't have the words. And so you need to actually set clear career goals. How do you do this? There's many ways, but one of the most famous methodologies is the SMART method. SMART, S-M-A-R-T. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Yes, I got them. So your goal has to be specific. Your career goal has to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be attainable, it has to be relevant, and it has to be time bound. So for example, instead of saying, I want to promote in my field, you can say, I work in a retail store, I want to get to an area manager level. And then you have to say, okay, what does that look like? How is that measurable? I'm going to use a job application kind of thing example, and here you can say something like, I'm going to make sure I apply to 10 area manager jobs every single weekend, right? That way you can track it. A lot of people will say they're looking for jobs, they're doing this, they're doing that, but they don't actually track the process, and they probably think they're applying to way more places than they're applying to, but they would have known that if they were just tracking the process. So you tell yourself, I want to get to the area, I want to get an area manager role in retail. I'm going to try and apply to 10 jobs per week for that. Is it attainable or achievable? Yes. some people, the number is not 10. Some people go for 50, some people go for 100. So just find that point that works for you, put it there. Relevant, it has to be relevant to the goal. I'm not really sure how maybe relevant would play a big role, because common sense should tell you if something is relevant or not. But if you are afraid that you might be doing irrelevant things, do a sense check. You know, ask yourself, is this really going to push me towards my goal? You know, if you're applying to 10 area manager roles, right, but then you're applying to them in a city or a region you ideally don't want to be in, what is the point? You know, it's not that relevant. Or, you know, are you doing activities that are taking you away from your goal and you think they're not? Like some people, let me give you an example. So I had a friend during my master's degree, and he was in the process of looking for jobs, graduate jobs, and I wasn't doing that as well. I was in that process because we were arriving at the end of our course, and I took a very volume-based approach. If you're interested, I'll do a video about that another day. I applied to loads and loads and loads of companies. I think in total I applied to hundreds of companies, you know, because I knew it wasn't the easiest thing in the world. Actually, it's very hard. I knew it wasn't the easiest thing in the world to get a job in the UK when you didn't have a work permit, like a visa. So meaning you would require employer sponsorship, and also, you know, we didn't have any experience. We were students, and I really wanted to stay in the UK, so I really applied. It was volume-based application. For me, it was just a numbers game. I'm gonna be honest, it was a numbers game, and honestly I think numbers games are fine if that's the right game to play. You know, I'm deviating a bit, but I honestly believe that if you're looking for one thing and one thing changes everything, kind of like you don't need 5 jobs, you just need one. You don't need 5 partners or 5 spouses, you just need one. If you're playing a game where one changes everything, like one yes changes everything, but a numbers game I think is perfect. But back to the point, I was applying to loads, and I noticed that he wasn't applying. In a week where I would have applied to like 10 plus jobs, he would have applied to maybe 1, and not even properly. And I would tell him, why? I think you need to do more. And his response to me was, it's not about what you know, it's not about applications, these things don't matter, it's about who you know. So he's just trying to network his way into a job. Bro didn't even have a network. He was like an immigrant student just like myself, except actually had stayed in the UK for many less years. So he'd been here for probably less than a year. What did he think was going to happen? He was just going to find networking events around the country and like try and talk cool and get a job offer. Like, I don't know, like I think he overplayed the relevance of networking your way into a job. It does happen. You can network your way into a job, but for you to like totally discard and dismiss job applications because you can't be asked and you feel like you just want to go for drinks and like talk to someone and get a job there, I don't think that was a smart move. And to be honest, he didn't end up getting a job. He actually had to move back to his country, his originating country, and I'm not sure, I think it was either India or Pakistan, I'm not sure. He is back in the UK now, but he's doing a PhD, so that's fine. But the reason why I told you that example is sometimes we set goals, but then the steps we take to get to those goals are not even relevant. We know what we want, but we're doing something completely irrelevant, and we're deceiving ourselves into thinking that's the way to go. And I'm pretty sure I make this kind of mistakes all the time. I know that. So when you're setting your SMART goals, make sure they are specific. This is the role or the type of role I want to go for. They are measurable. You know, this is what I have to do every week to get the role. They are attainable or achievable, and that's honestly depending on you and what you know your capacity is. Push yourself, but don't go set things that will be so big to attain that you end up just failing before starting. Make sure, you know, it's relevant to what you're doing and relevant to your goal, and not something that's actually random. Number 5, time bound. Time bound just means that you've set a deadline for this. Instead of saying, oh, you know, I'm tired of just being a sales associate in this retail store, I'd like to do something more. You actually say, I want to be an area manager, and to do that I'm going to apply to 10 jobs per week, every week, and I'm going to, you know, make it super relevant to what I want, make it this regions that I focus on, and I'm going to give myself 9 months to make sure that this happens. I'm going to do this every time for 9 months to get to that goal. Hopefully I'll get it by the end of then, but if not, at least I will come back to the drawing board and re-strategize. So yeah, I know I've used a job seeking example there, but you can actually use it within your own organization, within your own business, your own role, setting professional goals. One thing to remember is that as human beings, we are inherently biased. Not because we want to be, we just are. We see things through our own worldview and our own viewpoints based on our past experiences and knowledge. And I'm saying this because it's quite important that when you're setting your goals, you don't set them in isolation. Have a sounding board. Have someone, whether it's a friend, a colleague, or a mentor, who can actually look at those goals and list ways in which it's not really it's not really good, it's not really foolproof. There are things that we might set thinking they're achievable, and someone else will say, I don't think that's achievable. Not because I don't believe in you, but because that's a really intense thing you're saying you want to do. And the way your life is set up and all the other responsibilities you have, you might have to tweak that part. Someone else can tell you why you're going for this role. It's not really what you should be going for. You should be aiming 10 times higher. Someone else can tell you, oh, the job market is too competitive. Don't apply for 10 jobs per week. Apply for at least 50. Or someone can say, oh, this deadline you've given to yourself, I think it's too small. I think you're going to get to the end and be disappointed. So please change the time limits you've set for this goal. So it's really important you speak to people and understand what they think about your goal, and then wait and decide where to go from there. The second career mistake to avoid is assuming that your job is static. Sometimes people get into roles, they get really good at the roles, they get really comfortable in the role, and they feel like, well, everything is fine, everything is secure, I can just relax and ride the train. But it's not true. As the pandemic showed us, your job is never really secure or stable. I mean, nothing is secure and stable in this life. Even if you own a business, there can be ups and downs. But when you have a job, a full-time job where you have an employer paying you, it's not really as secure and stable as you think, in the sense that, oh, it's always going to be there for you till the day you retire. During the pandemic, a lot of people were laid off, a lot of people were put on furlough, etc. Just don't assume your job is static. Make sure you're not getting complacent. Make sure you're learning new skills. Make sure you're keeping on top of things. And if you're starting to feel comfortable, starting to feel like you're getting in the groove of things, try and jiggy it up. Even if you still want to be in the same firm, speak to someone, find out some other extra responsibilities you can take on, tasks that will teach you something new, etc. But don't just assume your job is static, because if anything happens and you haven't been on your toes, you haven't been kept on your toes, it might make it very uncomfortable. The third career mistake to have or to do is to not follow your dreams. A lot of times we finish university and there's something we want to do, but we don't yet have the skills. We don't yet have the skills to go for that role. So we end up taking the first thing available to us. This can be a sales role, it can be an admin role, or it can be a freelancer gigs on the side. But sometimes we get stuck in it for a long time, and next thing you know, 4 years have gone by, 5 years have gone by, and we're doing something that pays the bills and it's okay, and we go to work every day, but it's not really what we want to be doing. So you need to follow your dreams. That might sound a bit woo-woo, but I mean, and not everyone, by the way, has like career dreams and like, oh, this industry they want to work in, blah blah blah. But if you do have that, and that's not what you're doing at the moment, and you've been at where you are for a while, start to think, what can I actually do to move towards where I want to be? I have a friend who now is working in social media after about 6 years working in corporate finance, dealing with like treasury and shit. And it's really funny how she really likes this job and this is where she wants to be. She even does photography on the side. But for the past 6 years, she's been in corporate finance and she's been having a terrible time. There has almost been no time we've spoken in the past 6 years. She lives in Dubai, so obviously it's usually a video call. There's almost been no time we've spoken and she hasn't complained about her work, and then suddenly now she's doing something she really enjoys. So make sure that when you're starting out in your career, yes, you can get the job you need to get to pay your bills, etc. But then as soon as you are able to, start to think about what you really want to do and start working towards it. It makes a huge difference. The fourth career mistake to avoid is failing to learn new skills. A lot of times we get complacent, but that's dumb. Make sure that you're always learning new skills, especially skills relating to technology, any form of technology at all. Because a lot of times we're in a bubble, especially when we're doing our day-to-day work, our 9 to 5, etc. And we can't see outside the bubble. But I assure you, the world is changing, and the world is changing rapidly, whether you can see it or not. And oftentimes we can't see around the bend to understand the hard skills we need to get to be competitive in future. But at least we can still learn the soft skills that will be necessary regardless of what shape the future technological landscape morphs into. Complacency creates a false sense of security, and bruh, you do not want to be out of a job and then you're looking for a new one and you can't find it because your skills are just almost worthless in the workplace, and you're confused because you've been doing so well at work for the past few years. So how is it now that you're looking for a new job, even at the same salary you previously had, and you can't even find anything because they don't feel like you have your skill? I've experienced this as well. Like, I've been in a job for a few years and then gone to look at what the market was like and what they were requiring for someone like me, and I've just been looking at the screen like, yeah, I definitely do not have those skills. I do not have the skills. I haven't learned that shit. So it's not a good place to be. I'm going to read from my screen now about Moore's law. So if you've heard about Moore's law, great. If you haven't, basically it holds that the computing power of microprocessors doubles every 18 months. That means exponential acceleration in technological growth, which is precisely what we've seen in the 50-something years since Gordon Moore predicted it in 1965. While scientists can nitpick over the exact speed of technological growth, the point is technology continues to accelerate faster than ever, and that change impacts every industry on the planet. And with faster technology, faster technological change comes faster obsolescence. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Is it obsolescence or obsolescence? Whatever. But basically, old skills just disappear and they're made very redundant and not needed. The pandemic taught us a lot about job security, but there isn't just going to be that one pandemic. There's going to be many, I think. I mean, before this one, there was the other one that was more of an epidemic because it was mostly in Africa. It starts with the word E. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it on YouTube. And that was really bad. Like, if you got it, you were basically dead. And that was just in 2015 or so. And forget pandemics and epidemics. What of recessions as well? That's another period where a lot of people lose their jobs. So when you start to see that almost every 2 or 3 years or something, there's a big scare that is making people really afraid, you need to realize that you should be constantly learning new skills, so that, you know, you're always going to have your pick of jobs. I mean, if you look at the pandemic, for example, a lot of people were put on furlough, a lot of people were put on job, put out of their work. And suddenly a lot of people, you know, started having to do like food deliveries and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with food deliveries, but when that is not what you've ever considered doing before, you've been in a completely different field, but now you've been let go and you just don't have the competitive skills to be in your next preferred industry, and you have to start doing deliveries in the middle of the pandemic when honestly ideally you'd be inside in the safety of your home, but now you're going out and you're interacting with a lot of people because you need to make ends meet. That's not really nice. That's not really, you know, it's not great. So make sure that you're never failing to learn new skills. There's many sites you can learn new skills from. There's Udemy, there's Coursera, there's Skillshare. There's so many. You know, there are people who do Facebook marketing courses and you see about them online. There's people who teach you about e-commerce. Just learn something. Please learn something. Number 5, not volunteering for more responsibility. A lot of people make this mistake of thinking that they need to be promoted first before they start acting like someone who's been promoted. So for example, let's say you're an analyst, you would make a mistake to think that you need to be promoted to a manager to start doing manager duties. Think about it. If you own a business and you have 2 analysts and they're both applying for promotion, who are you going to promote more? Is it the person who is doing a great analyst job, no worries, but not really doing manager level responsibilities and tasks yet? Or the second one who is doing a great analyst job as well, but has actually over the past year been taking on more responsibilities, more tasks, and things expected of a manager? You're going to take the second one, right? So a lot of people do this thing where they don't know that they need to already be acting like the role they're going for. They need to already be acting like they have the role before, you know. Let me explain. I started working about 5 years ago. So yes, I'm not someone who has 20 years work experience or 30 years, but I've been working for about 5 years now at one of the big 4 management consulting firms. So there's four big four. There's PwC, EY, KPMG, and Deloitte, and I work in one of them. And I've been there for 5 years. So I was on the grad scheme for 2 years, and then I've now been a senior consultant for I think 2.5 years. Yes, so I'm currently 4.5 years into the firm. And then I noticed something, that for a grad to become a senior consultant, they need to be showing that they're already performing at a senior consultant level. So at your senior consultant promotion panel, you are assessed not as a grad, but as a senior consultant. And when you've ticked the boxes, then you then get the formal promotion to senior consultant. Same thing for manager. To become a manager, it's not that you have to be a great senior consultant and then you become a manager. No, you have to be a great senior consultant that is already acting like a manager, doing everything a manager should be doing, then you become a manager. And it goes like that for the other ranks in the firm, so senior manager, director, partner, etc. You have to prove yourself before you get the title. And I think it's interesting because a lot of people have it the other way backwards. They feel like, well, you have to give me this promotion first before I do the role to show you that I can do the job. But for the employer, that's actually a very risky bet. It's a risky bet because by the time they've promoted you, spent a lot of money, upgraded you, trained you, what if you're not actually then performing at that new higher level? What are they going to do? Fire you? Demote you? So think about it from their perspective and know that you have to take on more responsibility. Don't just get comfortable and sit there. It's really funny. Something that's funny is I always think about this in terms of relationships. Sometimes I see things on social media where like a guy would take a girl out, maybe the girl would request for something, and then you'd see guys complaining on the internet like, oh, you're not even my girlfriend yet, like why would I do that? And it's funny for me because while it makes sense, I often use the whole business methodology. Like, why should she date you if she can't see you being boyfriend material? Like, so you want to, like, it might be a controversial opinion, but I think that if you want to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, like, you should already see them doing what you'd expect your partner to be doing before you actually commit. That is a very, very random example I've put into like this career video, but that's my own personal point of view. I don't really say it out loud too much because I know a lot of people are going to come out with pitchforks and say no, but I honestly think if you want to pick a partner and you want to commit to someone who has already proven and shown you how they are going to be as a partner. Same thing with business. If your employer is going to invest money in you, invest time, invest training, commit to you, and give you a higher role, they already need to see you performing at that level. It's just a risk mitigation strategy. And if you're pissed, the world's gonna leave you behind. No one cares that you're pissed. You gotta do it. I'm gonna give you another example. I work with various freelancers online, right? My favorite site to do that is via Upwork, but there's other sites. One thing I've noticed is that when I post like an admin job, like I need someone to research something for me and put the entries into Excel, I could like post it and get like 50 applications, right? 9.9 times out of 10, the person I hire is probably someone who like sent an application in and said, oh, by the way, I did a sample for you, so I know you get your 100 entries, but look at like 5 or 6 entries already. And I'm just like, yeah, you can do the job, and you're hired on the spot, right? So in that case, it's not even how much you want me to pay you that is the main differentiator. That's important too, but it's also the fact that you've shown me that you don't even need a lot of direction from me. You definitely know how to do what I'm looking for. And the reason why I know is because you've sent me a short sample, you've done a few entries, you've put them in Excel, you've searched the internet. There's no way I'm going to hire someone who hasn't done that over you. And that's because why would I do that? You've already shown me you know what I'm asking for. You've already started. You've taken a lot of guesswork away from me. Instead of like looking at people and thinking, oh, would they be able to do it? Okay, let me just have a go. Let's try. I don't need to do that with you. So you get the job. And I think it's a tricky one because Upwork and a lot of sites, it's against their policy for you to actually ask and say when people, like if you're applying for this, please do a short sample and send to me. It's against their policy, so I don't actually ask for it. However, some people do send one in even when you don't ask, and I'm grateful for them because they get hired. Number 6, not knowing your strengths and weaknesses. Strengths and weaknesses are personal. Everyone has them differently, and they're also really dynamic, and it's really important that at regular intervals you do a SWOT analysis for yourself. If you've never heard about SWOT, it means strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's usually businesses that do them, but as an individual you can do one for yourself. One key thing though is that don't do it in isolation. Ask friends, people who know you personally, people who know you professionally. Tell them you're trying to do a SWOT analysis for your life to determine your career steps going forward. Tell them, what do you think my strengths are? Give me two weaknesses, etc. And then you can use it to build one out for yourself. I had a meal with a friend a couple months back, and he said, do you know what I think your strength is? And I said, what? He said, you know how to build an audience. You know how to bring people together for a course. You know how to say, okay, I want to create a community of 100 people and create those 100 people. And I'd never heard that before, but it made sense, because of the few initiatives I had done at that point, and he knew that I had done. So it's very important that you know your strengths and weaknesses, that you're clear about them, because that will make it easier for you to have a calculated next move in your career. You can then say, okay, I don't like this job, but what do I want to do next? Here's what I'm strong at, here's what I'm not too strong at. Or I like this job, but I want it to be changed a bit. Or, I like this job, how can I over deliver on my strengths, and what steps can I take to then start working on my weaknesses? Because if you don't know what your strengths are, how are you going to know that you need to leverage it even more? And if you don't know what your weaknesses are, how are you going to know that you need to start fixing something in the way you operate? So, a career mistake people make, and one that you should definitely avoid, is going around but not knowing what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. The 7th mistake is selling yourself short. A lot of times we're so desperate to get a new job or jump ship that we end up taking a role that really is, for lack of better terms, beneath us. And while that is not always an impractical thing to do, sometimes it will leave you in a position where you're doing just about the same amount of work with maybe a lot less pay, and then it's harder to get out of it, right? Sometimes we lack self-belief, right? So when I started working in my current firm, I would say my salary was about maybe £2,000 per month after tax. I'm not sure, but I think it was around then. And I still used to feel, because at that time I was just coming out from university, and I would be like, oh my god, someone's paying me that much to come to work every day. That's so much. And then soon, we found out that actually, even though we're getting paid that, when we, get resourced out to clients, the company is actually charging the clients 7-8 times that amount for me. So it was already mind-blowing enough to find out that you can pay me £2,000 to come to work every month, but then finding out that actually our company is actually charging the client £15,000 on my head, or in some another grad's head, is that if paying me 2K was mind-blowing, the fact that someone's paying £15,000 per month for me, now that is something that till today I still don't understand how that works. I'm still mind-blown, but just shows how a lot of times we sell ourselves short. We don't really know what we're worth, and so we end up staying in a place or doing something where we're not getting paid what we should be getting paid, but we don't even think that there's anything wrong with us because we lack that self-belief to ask for more or go to somewhere else where we can actually get more. more, etc. So I mean, yeah, it's very normal in an agency model or a consulting model or things like that to, you know, it runs off having skilled people and then selling them out at a much higher rate with much higher margins. So that's okay, but still I think that shows you how a lot of times we sell ourselves short. You know, we're struggling for someone to pay us £5, and I don't mean struggling in terms of we can't find them, but we don't believe we're worth it, so we don't even look for it, we don't ask for it. Yet actually that thing that we're so afraid to ask £5 for, it's actually like £50 or something. And another example is when I started a newsletter. I might have already released a video telling you that 2 years ago I decided to start a free weekly newsletter, and a friend of mine who, you know, worked with me at my company at the time, like my, you know, the consulting firm where I work, he told me, why not charge people for this? Maybe just charge them $5 a month or something for, you know, a weekly newsletter or a twice weekly newsletter. And I remember being flabbergasted. Like I was like, there's no one's gonna pay me $5 per month for a newsletter. Like no one's gonna pay me, that's so much. Like no one's gonna. That just shows you like how little I thought of like the value I was putting out there. Like I thought it was okay, it was free, but like no one would pay me $5 for that, whereas people would. They definitely would even pay more than that, but I didn't believe that, so I couldn't ask for it. Just for reference, that boy who's my age or slightly younger, maybe a couple months, had a newsletter as well. And last year, in the midst of the pandemic, he sold that newsletter for £200,000. Sometimes you need to realize the only difference between yourself and people who are doing extra things, extraordinary things, is that they believe they can and they go for it, whereas you don't, and so you don't even try. So that's the 7th career mistake to avoid, is selling yourself short and not believing in yourself. Number 8, not pursuing promotions actively. Promotions rarely come looking for you. Oftentimes it's the other way around. You have to go out and look for it and ask for it. If you want to climb the ladder at where you work and you're not sure how to do so, speak to your manager. Have them outline the steps you need to take to be eligible. What do I need to do? What responsibilities do I need to take on? And once you actually set out your plan to achieving this and you then achieve it, table your case forward to senior management. Tell them why you deserve to have a promotion, because you know you've gone above and beyond your current role requires you to, and then you can actually list out the ways you can present a whole business case, etc. The worst they can do is say no, but in a way that's even a good thing, because now you have clarity and you have knowledge that even when you do more than you're supposed to and you really add value, etc., they will not want to promote you, and you can actually start to look somewhere else and look for a new employer, etc., with the added benefit of, you know, because you were preparing for promotion in this other company, you would have learned new skills, you would have become better at so many things. So now you're actually even more equipped to go out and look for new work where you can find it at a higher pay and at the compensation level you feel like you're worth. So definitely don't be inactive when it comes to promotions, and pursue them actively, and that way you can have a better fighting chance of a higher salary, of better benefits, and even a more prestigious title if that's what you're after. Number 9 is one that has happened to a lot of us, and I've done that a few times. In fact, last week my boss messaged me around 11 p.m. being like, oh, by the way, were you able to do this? And he referred to an earlier email, except I never saw the email, and that was sent to me back on Monday. So I did it really quickly, and a pretty shabby job, and I sent it to him, and obviously because it was rush work, he gave me feedback telling me that I should pay more attention to detail. I didn't tell him obviously that I didn't even know that he had sent me something on Monday, and I did it really quickly on Thursday night. But number 9, career mistake that are deadly and you should avoid is missing an important deadline, or rather missing important deadlines, because we're all human and it does happen, but doing it regularly is not good. That could actually get you fired. I'm not someone who does that regularly at all. But if you're someone who misses deadlines regularly, then you need to reassess. If it's because you're really blasé around it and you're really lax, then that's really fucking stupid and you need to fix up. But if it's because you honestly are missing this deadline because your planning skills are poor, then try and get some help when it comes to organizational skills. Speak to some people in your team who are much better at handling their workload and get tips and tricks for you to be on top of things. That get help on prioritizing your work, setting priorities, setting milestones for long projects, short-term projects. There's a lot of different things you can use. There's the whole matrix that does important, urgent, not important, etc. Some people use that to manage their time and their workload. Just find out something that works for you, because deadlines are deadlines for a reason. Like, I'm someone who works a 9 to 5, but I also write music and I create music, and I'm now on YouTube. I have a lot of deadlines I'm juggling. So if I'm working with someone and they have to make a few edits and I need to get it today, I need to get this video out today, or I need to get the song mixed by tomorrow, and it's missed, like the deadline's missed and I don't get it on time, it's sad. I may not be pissed, but I may be very disappointed because I was very excited to see it. So definitely stick to deadlines. And if you know that you're not going to be able to make that deadline, but open your mouth, and not to eat, but to tell your boss that you're not going to be able to make it. I've worked with a lot of freelancers where, like, they were meant to speak to me and give me something, let's say by Friday. A whole week from then, I still haven't heard anything back. Then I'll go back and they'll tell me, oh yeah, this has been, I've been going through this, it's been really busy. That's fine, we're all human, but why didn't you just tell me? Why did you wait for me to hunt you down and chase you down and ask you about where the deliverable is for you to tell me that something's been going on, right? Most times, it's actually been, oh, I haven't been feeling well, etc. And that's fine, that's okay. But it doesn't take you up to 5 minutes to go online and send a message to your boss or manager to tell them, I'm not feeling well, I'm going to be out for a week or two, I won't be able to make the deadline. It's okay. Just don't know that you're not going to make it because something else is going on in your life, and then keep quiet about it. Like, someone's running a business, yeah? Someone's running a business, someone's running an organization. Even if it's not a business, it's a project and you've been paid to deliver at so and so time. Don't just go mute if you know you can't meet that. It's ridiculous. I have a lady that I'm working with at the moment. She's a producer, apparently, and I wanted her to create an instrumental for one of the songs I've written called More Than Something. After like a week or two, and I hadn't heard anything from her after assigning her the job, and I've never worked with her before, I was actually very, very excited because all the music producers and sound engineers I've worked with till date are all guys. So when she applied and I felt like, oh, she knows her stuff, I was very excited to work with my first female producer. But then she didn't, 1 week passed, 2 weeks passed, I didn't hear anything from her, not even a word. After, I sent the offer, she accepted everything. So time goes by, over a week, and I message her and I'm like, how's it going? And she replies telling me, oh yeah, once I'm done, I'll soon be done. Once I'm done, I'll send you the track. And so I told her, once you're done, like, no, we need to do this together. You need to send me progress updates. I need to, even before you start putting together this music instrumental, you need to tell me what creative direction you want to go in, etc. It has to be a collaborative process. And I literally never heard of her, or rather heard from her again. And 2 days ago, I just went back and I sent a message and I said, sorry, I'm just gonna have to withdraw this offer because I haven't heard back from you in 2 weeks. And even before then, it was a long time and I had to text you first to see what's going on. So that's very unprofessional, and that's a terrible career mistake. No one who has that kind of experience with you is ever going to want to work with you again, except of course if you have some serious excuses to why you just went radio silence, but they wouldn't naturally gravitate to you again. And if, let's say, someone wants to work with you and they hear about my experience with you, they're going to be a bit appalled and taken aback, and they might not be very keen to hire you as well. So make sure you don't miss important deadlines. If honestly it's just a planning issue and you just need to get better, then work at it. Ask other people in your office what they're doing, ask your friends, ask your family, and even take courses. There's courses on scheduling, planning, organizational skills, etc. If you're someone who's just very lax about them, do not be lax. Start to take them very seriously. It is extremely irritable when someone can tell that you don't take deadlines seriously. And then finally, if you know you're not able to make a deadline for whatsoever reason, just communicate. Just tell them, I can't do this. This is what's going on. Either there's too many things on my plate, or I'm not feeling well or something, whatever the excuse is, I just really need to tell them, or rather whatever the reason is, I need to tell my manager or my boss that that's what's going on and that's why I can't meet the deadline, because they might be able to find someone else to do that, they might be able to do that themselves, but at least they will know that whatever it is they're expecting at so and so time, they're not going to get it, but at least it's going to be less disappointing than getting to that point and then figuring out there's no deliverable for them to review. So the 10th deadly career mistakes that I noted down was becoming a jack of all trades. Now, I've put this there because some experts have said it's a mistake, but I think it's quite controversial because I don't 100% believe that being a jack of all trades is a mistake or it's a bad thing. There's two camps here. On one hand, we have people who believe that, you know, being a jack of all trades is seldom a good thing. You need to focus your efforts and achieve one aim, like Napoleon Hill said. And then we have other people on the side of Adam Savage who believe that becoming a jack of all trades is good, because a jack of all trades even though, you know, a jack of all trades is a master of none, that's often better than being a master of one. So it depends on where you fall on, you know, the spectrum, but I agree and I also disagree. I agree that if you concentrate your skills in one particular kind of like skill set or skill lane, and you just stack stuff on top of that, that could be a good recipe for a good and streamlined career. Let's say you want to become a tax accountant or a supply chain professional. You can just pick one and just keep getting better at that, and it will be really good for you. Progression is going to be super easy. You're going to be able to climb the ladder, request higher fees, etc. That being said, I am a jack of all trades. So number one, I'm a business consultant. Okay, that's what I do for my day-to-day job. It is almost, you know, ingrained in the description of that word and that role that you will be a jack of many trades, because oftentimes you go into a business and what you have to do to help that business is going to be very different from your next project, where you'll go into another business and have to do something completely different. You know, for example, I've done a project where I was doing a stakeholder communications role for a year. I've done another project where I've been doing process redesign for a year. I've done different things in consulting, and this is where the issue comes in, right? So I've noticed that a lot of times ex-consultants, if they want to leave their firm and try something else, they have to go into another consulting firm, because they've done so many things as a consultant that it hasn't created any specific skill set for them, so there isn't a high paying role for them to move into an industry. And that's not a general truth. You can find roles when you're an ex-consultant in industry. There are roles like strategy roles, operations roles, chief of staff roles that ex-consultants will do well in. But I often think that because of the lack of specialty in management consulting, oftentimes you don't have a very, very strong skill set in one thing, and it might be difficult to find something if you want to leave consulting and go into industry. And when I say industry, I mean non-consulting. So there's that. And then on the other hand, I actually do think being a jack of all trades is cool. So if you think about me right now, I have a 9-to-5 job. I work as a management consultant. My focus is in operations consulting, right? So anytime we're going to do a project for a business, it's usually on the operations side that I'm going in to go help. I'm also a singer and a songwriter, and I'm starting to put out music. And then I also have a YouTube channel, which means I do a lot of research, I do a lot of presenting, I do a lot of creative direction, aka working with my editors to make sure it's visually coming out the way I want it to come. You know, trying to learn a bit of sound engineering. I learned to write songs during the pandemic, learned to record myself last year, so instead of going into the music studio. And then on top of that, I also want to start my own brand. So what exactly is my specific skill? Or, you know, what is my trade? I don't know. I'm doing different things that interest me and different things that are feasible at the moment, and hopefully they'll all work in tandem for like a bigger goal. So I'm not sure if being a jack of all trades is a bad thing, but check your own life. You know, where do you want to be, and would focusing help you get there? Focusing on one skill lane or one trade, will that get you there, or will diversifying your trades get you there? And I'm very aware that I've you know, used the words skills and trade interchangeably, and that's not really correct, because even if you focus on one trade, you probably need to learn a bunch of skills just for that trade. So it's all about, do you want to focus on one trade, do you want to dabble, do different things? Just make sure that if you dabble and do different things, it's still coherent. So for example, I'm a management consultant and I'm learning operations related things. Every project in the world, whether it's a personal project or a business, needs operations. Like, I'm doing YouTube right now, putting them together, editing, producing, scheduling, etc. Those can be classified as operations in a way. Or when I write a song and I record the song, the journey, the whole process from recording that, writing that, getting backup singers, getting sound engineers, mixing engineers, producers, creating a final track, releasing it, distributing it, marketing it, having it out there, doing music videos if I want to, lyric videos if I want to. That managing that whole process is an operational activity, you know. And eventually when I start the brand that I know I want to start, even though I don't have the specifics at the moment, that will also need an operations kind of like inside input, whatever. So figure out what trade you want to focus on if that's what you want to do, and just go at it, you know, go at it 100%. And if you keep getting better and better, it will actually give you a stronger negotiating position in future if you want, let's say, higher pay or anything. But if you're also not sure what trade you want to do or focus on, then there's nothing wrong in being a jack of all trades. Just make sure you're learning a lot of skills and you at least have a story or narrative that you tell yourself connects all of them together. So for example, right there on the spot, I didn't even script that. I kind of thought, what links my consulting to my YouTube, to my music, to whatever future brand I want to build. And it was like they're all going to require operational activities. And so at least one thing that underlines all those trades is the need for operational efficiency. And my primary job, 9 to 5, is helping businesses achieve operational efficiency. So maybe that's okay. The 11th career mistake a lot of people make: not negotiating for more. You see, in life, you oftentimes will not get what you deserve. You will get what you negotiate. And if you are a good worker and you provide value to your employers, yes, they will want to keep you, but they will want to keep you while paying you what they feel they need to pay you to keep you, but not a penny more. So it's up to you to negotiate, get as much as you can without burning any bridges. No one's gonna say, hey, you're a nice person and you're so awesome, here's a free bag of money. No. So you need to negotiate for what you believe you want. And here's 3 things you need in order to negotiate well, or 4 things rather. Number 1, your performance data. How have you been performing, you know, over the past 3, 6, 9, 12 months, or even more? Because sometimes people have been in roles for years and no promotion. So make sure you have your performance data at hand. You can get this from your manager or from HR. Number 2, get similar industry salaries for the role you have. So basically compensation data. You can get this from sites like salary.com, salaryexperts.com, and there's different ones like PayScale, etc. Once you have that, number 3 is actually you need confidence. Okay, when the next performance review comes around and you know you've said you want to make a case for your promotion, you're gonna need to sell yourself. And if you don't sell yourself well, you're gonna leave that place and nothing will happen. So that's number 3. And then number 4, which should, you know, come before the performance review ideally, is practicing with a friend, either someone outside work or inside work, or a combination. Present your business case to them. Show them the salary information, compensation data from aggregator sites. Show them your performance data. Show them the business case you're putting together for higher salary, and present it to them. Act like they are the senior stakeholders, and then get their feedback and incorporate them to your business case. You do not get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate for. Number 12 on the list of deadly career mistakes: lacking confidence. Lacking confidence is number 12. And this is a sore one for me because I'm actually struggling with that at the moment at work. You know, I'm someone who likes to get in the weed of things, stick my head down, you know, do the reports, do the notes, do the technical stuff. But a lot of times during client meetings, I'm almost mute. Like, I don't really speak up, my voice isn't heard. And my manager was speaking to me about this a few days ago. I was like, if you want to progress, if you want to promote, you're gonna need to start being very vocal in this client meetings. It's crucial when it's really expected from you as a senior consultant. So I'm not gonna come here on camera and act like I don't actually fall into any of these career mistakes. I'm telling you, I do fall in quite a few of them, and this one is probably my biggest crutch at the moment. There are a few theories I have as to why I don't feel very comfortable speaking up in these client meetings. Obviously, I've told myself that those reasons are true, but yeah, you need to speak up. You want to get promoted, you want to get recognized, you want to get praised. You need to come out from the technical day-to-day things you're doing and make sure that you're contributing to meetings. You're putting things out there, you know, instead of just doing things that you're being told to do and doing them well, but going above and beyond and actually bringing up solutions as well and saying, have you tried this, have you done this, here's an idea, etc. Stupid ideas are not as bad as you think. They're not as bad as you think. Sometimes we don't want to speak up because we feel like, oh my god, this is going to be so stupid, it's going to sound stupid, and then they'll know that they hired a fool, and then they'll be like, oh, how did she even get in here? How did he even get in here? Fire her now, fire him now. That's such a stupid statement he made. Like, that's so dumb. But that's an over exaggeration. I've heard people ask things that honestly I'm like, really? But to be honest, that was it. You know, no one was thinking about it 5-10 minutes later. So if you're in this camp with me, let's try to get some confidence. Okay, so I'm gonna take a quick break from filming because I'm hungry. I'm trying to find this restaurant that I used to order from a lot about a few months ago, and I can't find them. They're a Nigerian restaurant, but I can't find their name, and my order history isn't showing me their name as well. Like, it's not showing me them at all. So maybe I used a different account, I don't know. But I really want their jollof rice. Oh, I really want their jollof rice right now. So if I don't find them, I'll just get like some pasta from this pizza place nearby. While I'm waiting for my food, which is about 7 minutes away now, yes, let me try and squeeze one more teeth in. So number 13 is not setting boundaries. Yes, you know, we've talked about accepting more responsibility, but that doesn't mean you should accept all responsibility, just some. And part of this is determining what to say no to and what to say yes to. Low level, low skill, busy work that doesn't really add much value, that's a no. But things that add really high and really a lot of value to your organization and the company's product goals, that's a yes. So some people have said a good litmus test to use for this is like asking yourself the question, this task that is being required of me in addition to my normal day-to-day role, is this something I can point to, you know, during my performance review and use that as a bargaining chip for a promotion and say, you know, I've helped out with this as well, and you know, this is really useful for the company, and I've been a very tangible member of the team. So if you can do that, and if the answer is yes, then sure, take on the responsibility. But if the answer is no, then cut your loss. However, knowing what to say no to is only half the battle. You need to say no in a way that would have your coworkers, or rather, that would leave your coworkers with more respect for you than less. And so you need to know how to say no to people without burning bridges. And sometimes it can just be, you know, explaining that you have too much workload in a good way and a measured way. Or, I don't know, find ways to do that. But the point is, don't say yes to everything. Set boundaries. You know, if you don't let to say no sometimes and you're in a terrible work environment, your colleagues and your boss can work you to the bone. That's what we call it, you know, when you're really being overworked. Ideally, they shouldn't do that, but not every workplace is the same. And some places will pile work on you until you collapse. So set boundaries, learn to say no, learn to determine what to say no to and what to say yes to. And when you're saying the no, be very, I don't want to use the word nice, but essentially be nice and civil about it and explain properly why you're not able to do that extra task while thanking them for even considering you in the first place. You can call it office politics, you can call it emotional intelligence, but that's just the game. So yeah, number 13, make sure you set boundaries, because not setting boundaries is a deadly career mistake that a lot of people make. So it's here, and I always order like a large bag of tortilla chips and guacamole. Okay. I also have like a burrito in a bowl and some drinks, so I'm gonna take a break. Obviously, to you watching this, it's not gonna feel like a break because I'm gonna be back in a few seconds, but to me, it's gonna be a proper break, and I'll sit down and eat and rest for a bit. So, number 14 on the list of deadly career mistakes, not giving yourself a break. It's so sad to see a lot of career-driven people who, like, they start out with their career with so much punch and zhuzh and energy, and next thing you know, a few years down the line, they are so depressed or almost there, some even suicidal, some just they've lost their mind, and that's because they're so burnt out. They've taken no breaks. They've been the kind of people to work from morning to past midnight, or like they're checking personal emails at all times, etc. It's really fucking sad. So if you're that kind of person, take some time off to relax. Or number one, don't become that kind of person to start with. It's very important that you join a workplace that has good work-life balance. And I know that phrase is quite controversial, and it means different things to different people, but basically, like, do they care about their employees' well-being, right? Or is it a place where they want you to work Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they want you to work 7 days a week, 18 hours a day? That's not healthy for anyone. You know, are they the kind of people that will get upset when they message you randomly at 9 p.m. and then you don't reply till the next day? Or are they, you know, are they the kind, are those who they are? So check those things before you start working somewhere. And if you're already working in a place that's so toxic and doesn't allow you to take a break, you can move. You're not a tree, you can move. You know, and I know it's not easy, but it's the truth. The whole point of work is to, well, not the whole point, but part of the point of work is so that you get compensation to fund other parts of your life. But if you're being worked to the bone, you're not taking any breaks, you're not taking any rest, how will you enjoy the hard work? Then what's the point, you know? So yes, make sure you have a fulfilling job, make sure all your ducks are in a row, but give yourself a break once in a while. Number 15 on the list of deadly career mistakes is communicating poorly. Believe it or not, a lot of people judge you based on how effectively you can communicate. Now, when we talk about it in terms of writing, if you send an email out and it has loads of misspellings and grammatical errors, it doesn't really matter how great your idea is, you will still look a bit foolish, just a bit. And it just takes away a lot of credibility in what you've sent. So make sure that when you're communicating and writing, you stick to short, succinct, and straight to the point sentences. Don't try to add a lot of fluff words. Don't try to use big, long, ambiguous words because you think that's going to impress who is reading, because it might do that, but if it goes wrong, then you will just look way worse. Don't be desperate to impress, okay? Use the words you know how to use. Don't think you must use big words. Just speak normally, speak sharply. And when I mean sharply, I don't mean bluntly or harshly, I just mean straight to the point. And written communication is only one part of the puzzle. You also need to figure out oral communication as well. One book that was suggested to me is one called The Charisma Myth by Olivia Fox Cabane. I haven't read it yet, but apparently it's a cheat sheet that you can use to learn how to communicate orally in a strong but warm way. And obviously, once you've learned written communication and oral communication, you can then start to look into public speaking. Like any other skill, if you do enough of it, you're going to gain mastery. I don't know if I have, for public speaking, I wouldn't say I have mastery of it. I'm okay with it. Like if I have to speak in public, I will. But trust me, I still get nervous. So I don't know. Do you still have mastery of something if you get nervous before doing it, regardless of if you go on to do it well or not? I don't know, but I'm okay with public speaking and everything. One thing that's really interesting is I feel like I'm usually less scared standing in front of a big place, like an auditorium or a hall or a lecture theater, and speaking to people I don't know, hundreds of people. I'm fine with that. But like, ask me to speak on a call with 5 people on my team and I'm just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I don't know why, it's such a weird, interesting thing. But yeah, and there's also this organization called Toastmasters, and they have a lot of chapters around the world. Even within universities as well, you can find a student chapter, and it helps people get better at verbal and oral communication. Now, if you are listening to me closely, you'll notice that I said, oh, once you're done with learning written and oral communication, move on to public speaking. You can never be done with written and oral communication, or else you're just going to be stunted. Learning is continuous. Learning has to be evergreen. Learn new things every day. Even right now, I already have signed up to, I think it's dictionary.com's new word of the day, and they send it to my email, and I learn words I didn't know existed before. Because I'm feeling like, if I learn one new word every day, even if I retain only 10% of all the words they send to me every day for 1 year, that'll still be 30 something new words added to my vocabulary and understanding in any given year. So learning to read, learning to write, learning to read, learning to write, learning to speak, it's not something you should ever stop. In fact, I even bought a book, I think it was last year, and it's Drea's English, and I love it so much because it just improves your writing skill, and it was written so wonderfully, so entertainingly. It's a non-fiction book, but whoever wrote it, Drea, has an excellent sense of humor. So that's one book I would recommend as well. But there's so many books that can help you improve your written communication and written your oral communication. Just go on Amazon, type in learn English or learn written communication, and you'll see so many books and workbooks. So just sit down there and be inactive. If you've noticed that you create work or you create a piece of work, and a lot of times people have come and said, okay, there's a lot of spelling errors here, etc., then you should already know you have a development point and you have an area of improvement, and start to work on that. As I work with a lot of freelancers, and they're from different parts of the world, so obviously their English varies, but I don't know, I do have a lot more confidence in the ones who speak fluent English. Not because I even think they're more skilled, that I don't think there's been a correlation between English language speaking and a different skill. It's just, it makes it easy for me as the person hiring to communicate with them, which means less project errors, less miscommunication, less issues. By the way, again, I'm saying English, but if you work in a country where English is not a normal language, right, and it's something else, then that's the one you should be focusing on, right? If you work in a place where the main language is Portuguese, how's your written communication in Portuguese? How's your oral communication, right? So I used English as an example, but no matter where you are in the world, learn how to communicate properly using the structures, the forms, the norms of that place. The 16th deadly career mistake that a lot of people make is that they neglect networking, especially when they've already settled in a job. They forget that they need to keep building their networks. So I know I shat on networking a bit in the beginning when I talked about my friend doing our master's degree, but my issue there wasn't with networking. I think it's really important, and I've always loved networking. I've always been a big networker. Like, I would leave my house and just go to a networking event and meet people. Super cool. I think my issue was just the fact that he was neglecting the main bit of job searching, which is applying to jobs, and he was thinking he would just like network his way through to a job. Well, it didn't work out for him, but what I need to say here is that it's really important that you network. It's really important that you expand your contacts, you reinforce the contacts you already have, to keep a finger on the job market. And a study by LinkedIn actually showed that up to 85% of jobs are never advertised. So I guess, my friend was a bit right in his assumption. Maybe I just feel like he should have approached it from 2 corners rather than just one. Because I was also trying to network and get to know people professionally, but it didn't stop me from applying to jobs directly as well. So there's that. And it doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert. I am an introvert. I know my friends will say, no, you're an extrovert. But I am an introvert as well. But I do love networking. And I think it's pretty okay. It's not as scary as it seems. There's a lot of people who don't like it. So I'm just like, you're just talking to someone and saying hi, how are you, and actually finding out stuff about their life while they're doing the same thing about yours. It's not that big a deal. But there's different ways to network. So if you actually go to sites like eventbrite.com or like any of these event aggregator sites, and you search and you type in networking or networking events, you're gonna see so many in the city you're in. Let's say you're in London, for example, you're gonna see many. Or there might be opportunities within the organization you even work in. So if you work in a big organization, you might find that they put on a lot of different events. One day it will be like awareness day for this, another time it can be a women's in tech event, or it can be different types of things. They don't necessarily need to be networking events, but just know that these are also networking opportunities, because you can always go there on time, and while you're grabbing drinks and canapes and small bites, you just start talking to someone else, and you just sit down together that evening, talk about what people they are talking about. It's an event, but technically you've used it as a networking opportunity. And it doesn't even have to be in-person networking or something that's initiated in person. So for example, back in 2018 or 2019, I don't remember which, I found out about an app called Shaper, SHAPR. It was like a networking, like a business networking oriented app that had the user interface of Tinder. If you know of Tinder, it's like you can swipe left on someone who you don't think you're attracted to, or right on someone who you think you're attracted to. And they brought the same premise to Shaper. So you'd have your profile, you have where you work, what you're looking for on that networking site. So do you want to find a co-founder? Do you want to expand your networking? Do you want mentorship, etc.? And you'd put those things there, and people would basically swipe left or right. And trust me, like I would say 99.999999999% of all my interactions there were of people who genuinely wanted to network. So don't think it sounds shady and it went south. It was a really good app. I met a lot of people, and a lot of times I was straight to the point. Hi, this is what I do. I'd love to get to know you more. You're in this industry. I find it really interesting. Would you like to meet for a coffee on Thursday? And we would just go out in London and go to, a cafe or similar, and would have a coffee and would get to know each other. Now that I've said that, I do always have a link in my bio, or rather my description box every time, inviting and welcoming you to buy me a coffee. So if you haven't done that, and that subtle nudge is out of the way. I think the app was very interesting because LinkedIn is, spoken about like a networking app. But a lot of times, especially nowadays, no networking is done on there. We just add people, and then that's it. Yeah, we see where they work and we see their achievements when they post it, but it's very passive. Shaper was very active, and that's why it wasn't weird at all asking someone, oh, would you like to go for a coffee on Tuesday? I'd like to find out more about what you do, and you can do that with me as well. It wasn't weird because for you to join Shaper, you're someone who is interested in networking, right? So you're not going to be freaked out by someone wanting to meet you in person to get to know you, and no one's going to be freaked out by you. So it was perfect, and I met a few people. There's actually, I would say I met 3 core people who, we almost even became friends in the following years. There's Danielle, there's Ben, and there's Vincent. I haven't spoken to Vincent recently, but I definitely have spoken to Ben recently. He ended up leaving his job, going to do an MBA at Oxford. And then Danielle, I actually found out that Danielle worked in the same company as I did, or rather as I do, and we've actually been closer friends than the other 2, but we've been friends for a few years now. So you never know who you're going to meet doing this networking things. You can meet people who will become professional contacts and good ones, and sometimes you'll actually meet people who end up being closer than professional contacts. I remember I was in a bit of a tough spot a few months ago, and I messaged Danielle, and she just sent me £1,000 to help me out in that situation. And she was like, yeah, just pay me back whenever you can. And this is just like some girl I met on an app as a friend a couple years back, and suddenly I'm in a tough spot and she's sending thousands to help me out. To be honest, I don't even know what that tough spot was. It was probably me trying to shoot a music video and not having enough capital. I don't know. But yeah, so that's why don't neglect networking. It's really, really important for your career. Networking is one of the things that if you forget about it and you want to rush it, it wouldn't be so good. You should network when you don't feel like you need to network. So you should network and get to know people when everything's fine. Not okay the time you want to start switching to a new job, or you want to try this or you want to try that, and you're a bit you don't have a lot of time, you're a bit pressured, and that's not the right time to start networking, because people will start to feel like, okay, you don't really want to get to know them, you're just a bit desperate, you want to see, like, do you understand? So when you're networking, know that you're doing this as a long-term investment rather than like a short-term fix. If you don't network on a regular basis, your contacts will forget about you. If you don't maintain your networks and your current relationships, connections, they will forget about you, not because they hate you, but because they all have their own lives. Do you understand? And if they forget about you, how are they going to think of you when maybe there's a job opening in their company and you'd be a great fit? They would not necessarily remember you. So it's very important that you keep networking. I'm reading here that apparently the University of Toronto once did a study and found out that a lot of people hate networking to the point where it makes some people feel physically dirty, as if they want to take a shower. That's a lot of hate for networking. So try and see if there's courses around you where you can learn about how to network effectively and talk to people, and then try and find networking events in your city. If you're like me, you can definitely go alone, and you probably prefer going on your own. But if you're not like me, then maybe find another friend who would be interested in networking, and then you guys can go in pairs or even more to this event, and it will feel way less scary because you're there with someone, and the emotions are shared and split between two instead of just on your shoulders. Also, do not stop networking once you found a job. A lot of people just network when they want to look for jobs, but when they've settled into one, they don't keep that network going. It's not smart. And I understand life happens and we don't really care too much about these things, but there's little things you can do. I'm going to give you, I don't know if this is a secret or a hack that you can use and stay on people's radars, but something I did last year, and I didn't do it because I was trying to network with people. I did it because I was trying to keep some of my contacts warm, so that if I did an outreach later on related to a product launch or something, it wouldn't be very cold. Like, that would be the first time I was ever speaking to them. So what I did last year was, for a few months, I actually hired someone off Upwork to okay, this LinkedIn really doesn't allow this, but I'm gonna say I did it anyway. I hired someone off Upwork to basically act as my personal assistant, to log into my LinkedIn, and LinkedIn does this amazing thing where, like, every day it tells you who has a new position, who's gotten a promotion, and who's having a birthday or a work anniversary. It is so easy to actually click on one of those things and just be like, "Hi Liam, I've just seen that you've gotten a new role or you've had a new promotion. I'm super happy for you. Best of luck," if that's what happened. Or if it's a birthday, you can send them a birthday message. And LinkedIn does this for you. Like, it curates it. You click it and you just see the list. It's so perfect. And so I just had someone be my personal assistant, and they did that every single day. Happy birthdays, well done on the promotions, etc., things like that. So yeah, in a way, it's kind of, you can see it as like an outsourced networking, because you're on the radar of those people. Like, you've actually wished them well. Not everyone gets personal messages when they have a promotion or when they have a birthday, so it's good. And I definitely looked at the messages as well. It wasn't as if I just outsourced it and forgot about it. I did used to log in almost every day to see what was going on. And if they continued the conversation, beyond a thank you, that I was then the one speaking to them one-on-one. That wasn't outsourced. So any real conversations was me, but for the main messages of just like, well done on the promotion, happy birthday, etc., I had someone doing that for me. And that's a very easy way to network at scale using digital technology as an enabler. Number 18, assuming that good work will be recognized. A lot of times your manager won't even notice when you've gone above and beyond to make changes in places that, let's say, you weren't asked to, but you did it out of your own initiative. Now, sometimes, yes, they will understand and they would recognize this and they would notice this, but sometimes when we just get a piece of work from someone, we just know it's good. We don't really know the details that went into it, but we know it's good and we know we like it and we approve it. But don't think that all your good work is going to be noticed by management if you're just silent about them. Because someone else who is working just like you but even producing less, doing less, could get to a higher rank and experience more success because they're bragging about their own successes and their wins, and you're not. You could literally be doing the same thing, improving the same ways, going extra mile, and because he or she is speaking up and you're not, you're just thinking, well, the work should speak for themselves. Why are they not giving me this promotion or this more money? Can't they say I'm doing a good job? No, they can't. You need to tell them yourself. You need to open your mouth and speak. Don't be shy. A lot of people, I don't know if it's modesty or it's shyness or they just don't know how to do it, but when they do a good job, they don't even hint at it. They don't say, okay, I've gone this extra mile in my work, but they expect the blessings to just fall upon them. Now, ideally that's what should happen, but remember, other people's lives don't rotate around you. You've got some extra mile in your work, but other people have their own work too. So make sure that when you've done something outstanding, you actively share that with management, you actively share that with your bosses and your colleagues, and they know that this is what you've done. Number 19 on the list of deadly career mistakes is burning bridges. Think about it this way. If networking is active offense, think about not burning bridges as defense. It doesn't matter if you already have a new job lined up somewhere else. Don't spread negativity. Don't start to talk ill about your colleagues or your boss. Don't start to do things that will ruin not only your reputation but your future ability to work in any place that any of those people would work. Or, you know, don't do anything that would make people start saying ill about you. Now, yes, we live in a world where you cannot control what people say about you, but it doesn't mean you should make it easier for them to say shit about you. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And if you really need to vent, do it to your friends, your spouse, your colleagues in a completely different industry, who are close to you on a personal level, etc. Don't talk shit about people. Word goes around. If you do have constructive feedback, let's say about how you've been managed or how the company runs, etc., hopefully your organization will have an exit interview with you anyways, where you can actually share what you think about how things could be done better. And I think those conversations are actually confidential and are only shared with senior management. So yes, don't burn bridges. Number 20, blurring the lines between personal and professional. It's well understandable that over time you will grow closer to your colleagues. Now, this doesn't mean that you should forget that you're at work and you're there to work. Your co-workers are not your friends. They're not. Now, in some exceptional cases, yes, you will meet someone and they'll become your best friend, and this will translate even outside work as well. Like my former work bestie, he's left the company now, but I was quite close with him, or rather we were good friends, and even till now we're still good friends. And you know, he's a vibe, he's like a day one, but that's not the case most times. Most times you have colleagues, and it doesn't matter how friendly you are with them, they are still your colleagues. Sometimes people forget this and they start to cross lines, they start to overshare and say things they shouldn't say, or they try to bend the rules. It will backfire on you sooner or later. Don't say I didn't tell you. A word is enough for the wise. Do not blur the lines between personal and professional. Your co-workers are your co-workers, not your friends. Number 21, nursing a negative attitude. That's a big career mistake. Anytime someone sees you, you're complaining. It's either this or that. You just find something wrong with everything, okay? And not only that, you even talk bad about people behind their backs, and you do it constantly. You're not gonna get far. You're not gonna get far. Because if I can see you talking bad about people behind their back, I'm gonna be afraid of you. I'm gonna be afraid that when I'm not there, you're gonna talk bad about me to other people's backs as well. And if you're always negative, it saps out energy, and no one wants that kind of negative pull on them. I used to have a friend, she used to work at my current company, but she's left now. Anytime I met this girl, it was 150 complaints. A lot of them were even paranoid complaints, but she would be complaining so much about so many things. And most of these things had very easy ways to be resolved, but she would create an excuse as to how that wasn't an option. And it actually was a bit draining, because like once she got a hold of you, it was very hard to like get rid of her, and she would like offload everything on you, and it was weird. I'm not saying I didn't want to be there for her, but it was a bit too much. She doesn't work for the company anymore. She was made redundant. I'm not saying there was a direct link between those two, but going into work every day is already tasking enough for people. Don't then do other things that will pull down the energy more. Don't be an energy vampire, because once you have a reputation for that, it's usually hard to get rid of. Number 22 deadly career mistake is focusing only on money. Now, yes, your salary is a crucial factor when you're changing your job, but that's not everything. There's other things you need to check as well. Work-life balance, learning and career growth opportunities, alignment with career goals, reputation of the company, that's the brand, the size of the team, training and skilling opportunities, etc. But your focus shouldn't only be on money, because a lot of times what will happen is you're going to start the job, you know, your level of living will increase, but then soon enough, you know, hedonic adaptation will happen, you get used to it, and now you're just left with the job, which means if you don't like that job, or you never liked it to start off with, you're not going to be enjoying what you're doing. I have a friend at the moment. She's leaving our current company to go to another company, and she's going to be earning about £20,000 more. That's a lot of, you know, that's a lot of money. So that's about a third more than her current salary. Actually, I think it's more than that. It's at least 50% more than her current salary, so it's high. But here's the thing, she already hates what she does. At the moment, she doesn't enjoy being a consultant at all. She wants to break out, she wants to do her own stuff, and she's smart. I know she can do it. However, if that's the case and you're really sick and tired of our company right now, and part of the reason why that's the case is because you don't actually enjoy being a consultant, make it make sense that you're going to another consulting company that has a reputation for being at least 5 times more intense than our current company, like where they get worked to the bone. Anytime people can't go from that company and come to our company, we know them as workhorses. They're really, really good, but fucking hell, it's intense. And so for me, it's kind of like you're only doing this for the money. If it wasn't for the money, if let's say the pay was going to be the same, you wouldn't go. And you wouldn't go because actually you don't like what you're going to be doing there, but you've been blinded by the money. You've been blinded that it's 50% plus more than what you're currently earning, and you fail to see that you're just going to be doing way more of what you currently do, which by the way is what you hate. So yeah, the 22nd deadly career mistake I have for you on this list is focusing only on money. And that's if you're thinking of entering a new job, and let's say the pay is going to be higher, ask yourself, if the pay for this new job I'm moving to is going to be exactly the same as what I'm earning now, will I still move to that job? If the answer is a yes, good. You're not doing it for the money, you're doing it for other reasons. But if the answer is a no, then maybe reconsider that move, right? Because again, salary is an important factor in the jobs you select. But if you're at the point where it's not a matter of, you know, becoming homeless or life or death, and actually, yes, a higher salary will be nice, but it's not too crucial, then it's going to be really stupid for you to use that as your main factor in determining whether you move to a new job or not. Because a lot of people focus on the money, they focus too much on the money, and they stay stuck in places they shouldn't be, and next thing you know, they're in a career rut, or they have burnouts or bore out, and it's not a good look. Number 23 career mistake some people make is failing to score a new job before quitting. Here are some things that happen when you quit your current job before you find a new job. Number 1, you look and feel more desperate, and there's this thing people do, human beings do, managers do, where they feel less interested in you if you don't currently have a job. Maybe they tell themselves, oh, if they're out of a job, it means no one wants them, so I don't want them. I mean, that's not really a true narrative necessarily, but human beings tend to think like that. So you look and feel desperate, which means some people won't want to hire you. You have bills, okay? Your rent doesn't care that you quit your job. Your food doesn't care that you quit your job. If you have responsibilities dependent, it won't matter that you quit your job, those needs will still need to be met financially. So your bank account is draining, if you have debts, the bill collectors are circling, you feel more desperate when applying to jobs. It's not a good look. And if you quit before lining up something else, you can then be pressured, and you can feel like you may need to take a lower role, or less role rather than a higher role. Whereas if you're in your current job and you line something up and you get a new job, you can actually focus on going into the industries you want to go to, the roles you kind of want to go into, and even aiming for higher pay. But all those things, you're only able to do them when you have the luxury of a current job that is currently feeding you. So that is one tip. It is a slightly controversial one because there's people who feel like if you really want to do something, you need to quit your job and know that, you know, you have no plan B and you've got to make plan A work. And then there's other people who will tell you that's too reckless. Make sure you always have something lined up before leaving your current job. I don't know, where do you stand between those two options? It is easier to find a job when you currently have a job. It's just one of those weird rules about the universe. Number 24 in deadly career mistakes, we have not building your personal brand. In today's technological age, it is easier than ever to build a personal brand because most times the work you have to do to establish a reputation and credibility in a particular topic, aka topic authority, a lot of that work is digital. Your online footprint plays a pivotal role on where your career takes you or where your career goes and how far your career can go. So if you haven't thought about it yet, or you've always heard about it, people say build a brand, but you've never done anything about it, then I would advise that you start as soon as possible. It actually reminds me of about 2 years ago when I started a newsletter, a free weekly newsletter, and I talked about organizational behavior and business psychology and leadership development, etc. I actually got a lady reach out to me and invite me to a panel at a top insurance firm in London. They were having a conference and they had different panels, and maybe she's someone who read my articles on LinkedIn and was part of my newsletters, but she reached out to me and said, we would love to have you on this panel on so and so topic. I didn't even know about her. I didn't even know who she was personally. I literally, her reaching out to me for that was the first time she did. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do it because that was right when like the pandemic was kicking off, for lack of better terms. So around, I think it was March 2020. And so everything started shutting down. People were going into panic. We started working from home. So that conference was basically cancelled. However, it just showed me how you can start creating a brand online and people will start to approach you and give you career opportunities that you wouldn't even have known existed. But that can only happen if you've established your brand. So use the internet, use social networks, use social media to build a brand. And if you want, I can actually do a video later on how to build a personal brand online. That may be helpful, and if that's the case, I'm happy to do so. Number 25, you fail to build a supporting team. Now, we get it. You want to have a great career, but you can't do it all by yourself. So find people who have walked the path that you want to walk and create a support network and a support team made up of them. This can include mentors, this can include coaches, and definitely sponsors as well. They can be people within your organization or people outside of your organization, or if you're a freelancer, people who have done similar things. But make sure you create a supporting system, a support system, and even putting time into your diary. You know that, okay, every second week of the month I need to speak to Anna. Every 8 weeks I need to speak to Josephine. Every Friday I want to speak with Paul. Let us catch up, let us check in, let them understand what is currently happening in my career and my progression, and let me get their point of view. So a French historian, René Girard, popularized the concept of mimetic desire / mimetic theory. Mimetic desire refers to desire according to another or desire according to a model. It implies that imitation is the force that shapes human desire and that people desire things because someone else, a model, did it first. So we desire what other people desire or what people have endowed with value. Why do I say this? The number 26 deadly career mistake you can do is failing to see the effect of mimetic desire on your career choice. A lot of things I've put in this video so far, I've researched them, I've learned more about them, but this one, I put it in myself because it's true. For example, go to the typical UK business school and you see a lot of people either want to go into management consulting or investment banking. And a lot of them have actually convinced themselves that they know why they want to go into those fields, or that they want to go into those fields because they want to go into those fields. But to be honest, most of them don't even know what those careers really entail. However, that's the career path everyone is aiming for, the best and brightest students are aiming for. So it becomes a signal. It becomes something that other people then start to want, and then it becomes a top career choice. And a lot of times people fail to see the effect of mimetic desire on their career choice. They're doing things not because they want to do them, but because the best and the brightest, that's what those ones are aiming for, so they feel like they need to go that way as well to get status. Some people end up working in consulting for a long time or working in investment banking, and after 10 years they're like, actually I hate this, I want to open a flower shop, right? So mimetic desire is actually very present in the way we make choices in our careers, whether we want to go for roles and promotions, what promotions we want to go for, what firms do we want to go work with, etc. Another way it shows it rears its head is in assumptions. A lot of time, because of what people do, we don't even question it, we just want to do it as well. We think we have to graduate, then get an internship, then an entry-level job, then work like as a first stage manager for a while, then move up for a bit, and then if you start stalling, move to a different company for a higher salary. And it's just the scripts we have in our mind, whereas someone else will graduate from university and be like, okay, yes, I understand that's what a lot of people do and they like to do and they feel like that's what they need to do, but I don't want that, so I'm going to start my own business. And then that same person will be earning 6 figures within a few years, and next thing you know, millions in less than a decade, right? Because they've decided to go their own way. But you can only do that if you know that there's this thing called mimetic desire, and a lot of things we think we want, we don't actually want them. Think about the rat race, for example. A lot of people blindly follow the footsteps of their friends, their relatives, their their acquaintances in search for a career. In fact, there's a lot of people who choose careers based on what they believe their parents will like, not based on what themselves they like, right? And these are the kind of people you see, they never really enjoy their job. They're always working and looking forward to Friday. Like, Friday is their favorite day because it's the weekend, whereas actually you should enjoy your work. Like, if you really enjoy your work, Monday is probably going to be the most exciting day for you. And I've had many years of my life since growing up when Monday was the best day for me for the week, because I was like, fresh start, time to start creating some real value, time to be excited about work. But some people are the opposite. Friday is their best day because technically and secretly, whether they've admitted it to themselves or not, they don't actually like what they're doing, but it's there. I do have someone very close to me, I'm not even going to say our relationship, but very close, like family level close, who I noticed he was coming back from work every day complaining. This wasn't passive irritation. He will come into the house, throw his bag in the sitting room, and then start to complain about who's pissed him off, what has gone wrong. And you could tell he just didn't like his work, he didn't like his team. And then when I told him, why not change to this other part of the bank, which is more of like a middle function, he was like, why? No, I can't do that. No, that where I am is where the money is. Where I am is where the money is. In my mind, I remember thinking, but you hate it. You seem to not be getting along with your teammates. You seem to not like them. They seem to not like you. You don't like the job. You're stressed the fuck out. You're complaining every day. And there's this adjacent function that I think you might be good at, and you'll probably enjoy your time more, but you don't want to go there. You're saying this is where the action is happening, this is where everyone's trying to get into, so why would you leave? First, that's not really how you should think about such big decisions. It's, yes, what people like tells us things and it helps us shape where we go, but if you're clearly not liking something, but you're still doing it because you feel like that is other people's ideals. If that is not a deadly mistake, I don't know what it is. Mistake number 27, choosing your job based on limited information. For example, there's a lot of people in university who have no idea that when they come out of university, they can apply to jobs that have nothing to do with the subject they studied. I was one of these. When I was in my undergrad, I remember my brother sending me links to like PwC, EY, KPMG, Deloitte, basically the big four, and told me to apply for their whether internship or their grad job. And I was like, how can I apply? I didn't study accounting and finance, right? And he said, you don't need to study accounting and finance, you can study anything, right? So I just had this assumption that because these were accounting firms / consulting firms, I couldn't apply because I was studying communications and media studies, and it was different. Like, the assumption was just there. So a lot of times people restrict themselves when they want to go for stuff because they feel like that they're not the kind of person that those companies are looking for, and that can go for any industry. So a mistake you can make is choosing your job or your career based on limited information. Sadly, you don't know what you don't know. So if you're making this mistake, you don't even know you're making this mistake, because if you have assumptions, you don't think they're founded assumptions. You probably think that's just the way the world is. It's just the truth. It's not until someone comes in and breaks that assumption for you that you realize it was an unfounded assumption. So it's a bit, sad. And this doesn't only apply to new grads, by the way. There are currently jobs that didn't exist 5 years ago but exist now due to, obviously, the internet and how fast it's growing and developing. So make sure you're always aware of what's happening. Make sure you're always aware of what careers you can explore, and then make your information based on that, right? If need be, talk with a career consultant. There are careers coaches that charge a fee to speak with you and learn about what you want to do, and even inform you about what's out there. So if you're thinking, I want to apply for a new job but I'm not really sure what I want to apply to, consult with one of those, and they might be able to give you guidance and also help get rid of some assumptions you had that aren't serving you well, and also give you some information, and you can make a better career decision as a result of that. Number 28, thinking that it's too late to make a change. Sadly, as people get older, they're entering 40s, 50s and beyond, even though they've mastered their craft at that age, or rather they've likely mastered their craft at that age, they sometimes get very scared about changing their career. Instead of seeing that experience as a great thing, they start seeing it as a crutch and as a restriction. They feel like they might never be able to make a decent income if they switch careers or switch jobs, and so they let themselves remain in a rut or somewhere they don't want to be. So I don't know how to say this, but that is a mistake. You should not think that it's too late to make a change. There are people who have changed industries completely in their 50s, their 60s. There's people who have started businesses in their 70s. So as far as you're willing to be challenged, inspired, as far as you're willing to learn new skills, I would like you to put that fear at the back of your mind, or rather just throw it behind you and go for it. Now, I do understand that as someone who is 25 years old, I don't know what it's like to be 50 or 60 and feel like I want to make a career change, but I don't think I can do it anymore. I understand, but I'm just sharing the gospel here. Don't ever think it's too late to make a change. Sometimes when we have these fears, they are really in our minds and we believe them so tightly, but it doesn't make them the truth. I've had also self-limiting beliefs about myself, and then once I just decided to act in the direction I wanted to act in, regardless of those self-limiting beliefs, I realized that those self-limiting beliefs were nothing but shadows. I came across this new word last week. I mentioned about learning words every day, and I think this one was called sayamiki, and it talks about, it's basically the act of like fighting a shadow or an invisible enemy that's not really there. And I think we do that a lot to ourselves. We create strongholds within our minds, and then we say we can't break free of them, whereas there's nothing there. We just hold on to bitter non-truths so tightly. Number 29 is wasting time. And by the way, I am guilty of this as well. You cannot believe the amount of weekends and evenings I've spent doing absolutely nothing, just watching TV, eating nice food, and resting on my bed. And yes, that does sound amazing, but just because relaxation and entertainment is good doesn't mean you need to be resting at every single moment. Because if you think about this, if you work an average 9 to 5, right, and you like me come home and in the evening and weekend you just chill and you watch TV, it means you're spending your life split doing two things. Apart from sleeping, two things: creating value for someone's organization, and then consuming other people's content, aka entertainment, but you're not creating anything for yourself. And I think that's the reason why I noticed recently that anytime I write a song, I feel very, I don't know, I don't even care what happened that entire day. I don't care about anything. Any day I write a song, there's a certain nice feeling I have. And I think I clocked that feeling is called fulfillment. Because I'm just like, oh my God, I've just created something. I've created this piece of music. This has gone from 0 to 1. An hour ago, this song did not exist any time, any place, didn't exist in the world, didn't exist in history, and I've literally just created a new song. This is magic. But a lot of times we don't do that. We don't create things for ourselves. We're watching Netflix, which is someone else's creation. We're watching YouTube, someone else's creation, and they're earning amazing things from it. We're going to work, contributing to someone's bottom line, but then we're not doing anything for our own. Why? I would advise you, if you're like my former self who has wasted a lot of time just chilling, doing nothing, stop. Start to ask yourself, what are my skills? What am I good at? And if you don't know what you're good at, then you need to start finding out right now. You know, search deep, search within, search online, ask your friend, figure out what you're good at. What is your skill? What are you exceptional at? What can you be an expert at? Once you figure out what that thing is, then practice, learn, do. Tell yourself, for every day I go into work, into the office, I also need to create something of value for myself and my skills. I need to take a course, I need to learn a new skill, I need to put out something. So if you're someone who wants to be a content creator, there shouldn't be a day that goes by and you haven't created some piece of content. Because why not? Almost everyone consumes content every day now. And if that's you, then that's the challenge you should give yourself. For any day I watch any piece of content online, I must create a piece of content for myself. Make sure that you're producing as much as you're consuming. Don't just be consuming anyhow. Become a producer as well. Stop wasting time. Number 30 really pisses me off, and that is over promising and under delivering. A lot of people think that like over promising will make you be glad at them. Like, let's say something normally takes 8 days, they'll come and tell you, oh, that's fine, I'll do this in 3 days. It's like they know the kind of happiness that will give you, but then they don't deliver, which ruins things and makes it way worse. For example, I'm Nigerian and I grew up in Nigeria, and something that tailors would do a lot of the time is you buy your clothing material, you buy your fabric, you give it to them, show them the design, and they will tell you, oh, okay, come collect your dress, in 2 weeks it'll be ready. You go in 2 weeks, it's never ready. You'd be lucky if it got ready in like 5 or 6 weeks, and that's with you constantly chasing them every day. And I don't understand how people don't understand, or rather how people don't see that when you under deliver something that you've over promised on, it ruins your reputation and your retention. I'm less likely to come back to you for more work, and I'm less likely to tell anyone anything good about you. If you think something will take you 5 days to do, tell your boss or your manager or the client hiring you that it's going to take you 8 days. If you honestly think that it's going to take you 5 days, tell them it's going to take you 8 days, because at least you know that you can get it done in 5 days. And 2 things will happen. Number 1, either you then give it to them after 5 days and they'll be so excited that you actually gave it to them early, right? Or it actually takes you longer than 5 days, but because you've given yourself a buffer, you should still be able to meet the 8-day mark you've given them. Learn to manage expectations, and one of the things that you have to do in managing expectations is to not under deliver. Some people, give the advice of under promise and over deliver. I don't know. I think, yeah, in practice that's good, but sometimes I feel like it's a bit untruthful. I don't care if you tell me that it's going to take 4 days and it takes 4 days, like that's fine, but don't do that thing where you think to impress me or maybe to win work you tell me it's going to take 1 week when actually it might take you 5 weeks. I have a friend, or an acquaintance rather, and I've worked with him on a few songs actually. I'm not going to divulge which songs they were. And he's a music producer, and he has this terrible habit of, oh, my key just fell. He has this terrible habit of over promising, right? You tell him how long is this going to take, he'll tell you, oh, not longer than 2 weeks. But somehow 8 weeks later, you're still really trying to get stuff out of him, like what's going on. The funny thing, sometimes you chase up that much and the person gets offended. Why are you chasing me up so much? I thought you weren't going to use this anytime soon. And it's kind of like, that's not the point. The moment you've told me something would take 2 weeks, once the two week mark hits, I'm super cognizant that I don't have my deliverable, and I'm very uncomfortable because how long is it going to take? Don't lie to win work. If you know something's going to take you 3 days, don't tell someone it's going to take you 1 day just so that you can win the contract. It's not a good long-term play at all. Anyway, I digress. You get the point. Over-promising and under-delivering is a deadly career mistake, and you should avoid it at all costs. 31 is holding up the measuring stick. Now, there's nothing wrong in looking at what other people are doing and, you know, being motivated by other people's greatness. The problem comes in when, instead of being motivated by their greatness, we're then sucked into inaction because we are afraid that we do not measure up. We believe we are not as good as they are, and so cannot possibly excel at a similar goal. But that's wrong. If you hold yourself against other people in measurement, and if you keep measuring yourself up against other people for whatsoever reason, including motivation, you are going to get mired in self-doubt. The world is a big place. There are at least 7.8 billion people. Not 780 million, not 78 million, not 7.8 million, not 780,000, not 78,000, not 7,800, not 780, not 78 people, and not 7 or 8 people. There are 7.8 billion people in the world, which means there are people you are better than when it comes to working, and there are people that are better than you, period. If you want to keep comparing yourself against others, you are going to beat yourself up. There are people who are extremely gifted. There are people who are talented. There are people who are plain lucky. And you need to just understand that your greatness comes when you focus on yourself, you map out your trajectory, and you do everything in your power to hit the goals you've set and to live the most magnificent life possible. It's a detrimental distraction to measure yourself to other people. Focus on your own growth. And I've done this sometimes as well. Like where I currently work, there's at least a couple managers that I've come across in the past few years, and I just look at them and I just tell myself I cannot be a manager. I don't have what it takes to be a manager. Even though everyone tells me that I have what it takes to be a manager, I tell myself I can't. And that's because I've seen these people and I can't unsee them. And to me, they're just so great and they're so excellent. Oh my God, there's a bug in my room. It's like a moth or something. Get the fuck away. Get the fuck away. Get the fuck away from me. I feel like I'm gonna commit murder on camera because I'm just gonna clap it. Okay, it's very distracting. But I'm just going to complete this point, then I'm going to find a way to murder an animal. Basically, it didn't matter that everyone was telling me, or everyone tells me, you do have what it takes, you need to believe in yourself more. Because I keep seeing the images of just two people in my head, and I know how amazing they are, and I don't feel like I'm as good as them. So you can see how bad it is. Holding up the measuring stick can go bad really quick. And your career needs you to believe in it. Not to feel like you're not good enough because that person's doing this and this person's doing that, etc. So number 32 is choosing a job over an industry. But this wasn't my idea. I read someone's story online and I saw that they regretted choosing a job over an industry. According to what they said, they spent years, over a decade, dabbling from hospitality to fashion to IT to banking. And then they even tried out consulting and education. However, they feel like hopping from industry to industry cost them a lot, because when you move from industry to industry, you have to learn the industry again from scratch. You have to learn the market, learn the people, the unwritten rules, etc. And you know, the person speaking believed that, you know, a lot of times we roll into jobs, we don't care what industry it is in, as far as it's a job and it pays the bill, we take the job. But, you know, he or she doesn't think it's an effective strategy because it means in the long term you will never become an expert or something. Instead, pick 1 or 2 industries that you love and commit to finding an opportunity there. The reason why I say that that point is interesting is because I don't agree with it. The real mistake, in my opinion, is number 34, the next point, which is choosing an industry over a job. And there's 2 reasons why. Correct me if I'm wrong. But number 1, a lot of times people that choose industries over jobs are doing it for the wrong reason. They like the idea of the industry, and so they attach themselves to it, even though the actual day-to-day job they're doing is very unfulfilling. I know people who, and there's a lot of people like this, they want to say they work in finance so bad just so they can look flashy, that they don't actually care what role in the finance industry they get. So the friend I mentioned a while ago who worked in finance for many years before then moving into a social media role at a food startup, I think she's that kind of person who always had she had drank the Kool-Aid of finance as this flashy, respectable, reputable profession, that it didn't matter that she didn't like the roles she was doing. Like, as far as it was in finance, it was okay. I may be wrong, but to be honest, it's not just her. I've met many people like that as well. And it's not just finance. It's not just finance. There's people who have that kind of intrigue about, you know, clean energy or the many rising industries we have now. And I don't think it's going to give you a lot of job satisfaction if you don't like what you're doing day to day, but you like the name of your industry. That's why it's called job satisfaction, not industry satisfaction. The second reason why I think it's actually way more dangerous to pick an industry over a job is because what even is an industry nowadays? Is Airbnb a hotel industry or an internet marketplace? Is Uber a transport company or a tech and data company? Right? So the definitions of what an industry is are changing day to day, and they're changing so rapidly. So it's actually better to choose a job and choose a trade / a skill lane and get better at it over time, so that it doesn't matter what industry you are in or you are not in, you would be able to do well in it. If you become a supply chain expert, okay, that's a bad example because a lot of times supply chains tend to be very specific to the industry, so let's just change it. Let's just say you're someone who is great at digital marketing, right? That's very important. That's a skill, and I would argue that it doesn't become redundant the moment you move to another industry. You know, it's very applicable across industries. If you're someone who is an expert in operational effectiveness or you know, diversity and inclusion, HR, etc., it doesn't really matter what industry you go into. As far as you are really good at the functional area you're in, you always have a place to go. So I actually think it's very important that when you're choosing a job, you're not just doing this because you like the idea of the industry, or you think it's going to give you status to say you work in this or you work in that. Make sure you actually like the job you're applying to or the job you're doing. Make sure the day-to-day is something you want to do, because it's the day-to-day. It's called your job for a reason. You know, if you don't enjoy it, but you just like to say, oh, I work in this, I work at that, you're a fool, you're an idiot, and you're a child. The final mistake I'm going to list in this video as one to avoid is not sharing your goals. A lot of times we want to keep our information personal. We might think, oh, if I tell them where I want to be in a few years, that might be oversharing, that might be overwhelming. But actually, not sharing your career goals with your superiors is a very quick way to deter you from achieving your goals. Because if they don't know what you want, they don't know what you want from a job, it can be difficult for them to actually put in your line of sight the opportunities, responsibilities, tasks, and roles that you need to get to where you want to go to. Your superior probably would prefer that they know you want to go to for a promotion next year, because it helps them manage you properly, and they always have that in mind when in their interactions with you and in any work you're doing, right? So share your goals, and if let's say your career goal is to actually leave the company or something and you don't feel like sharing it with someone within the company, that's fine, but still share it with someone outside the company that is closer to where you want to be. Even share with friends. There's so many people, they have career goals but they don't want to share it with people, or maybe it's part of this whole I move in silence movement where people glamorize keeping things absolutely secret until they are completely achieved. Honestly, I think people who do that have slightly narcissistic tendencies, because they're moving in silence, but the aim is like to move in silence until they succeed, and then they burst out and everyone goes, oh my god, how did you do that? Wow, that happened from nowhere, and they get all this glory. I was gonna throw up like the middle finger, but honestly, I feel like I'm getting a bit too sassy because I've been recording for a few hours now and I'm getting quite sleepy and all the professionalism is getting out the window. But share your career goals, please. It kind of links to the other topic of what I said, having a support team, but specifically share your career goals. All these things we've been telling you, or all these tips I've told you, all these mistakes I've said you should avoid, they're all useful, but it's very important you share your career goals with your superiors. They need to know you're going for a promotion. They need to know you want to negotiate a raise with the wider senior management team. They need to know things. So yeah, don't make the mistake of thinking you need to keep absolutely mute about your career goals, or making the mistake of thinking that they don't care. If you have a manager and they don't care, that's bad and that's on them, but it doesn't mean you should stop. You should still find people you can share your career goals with at work. Thank you for watching, and let me know if you actually enjoyed this kind of long videos, because to sit down and research and come up with dozens of tips and tricks and advice for you, it does take time and I don't regret it at all, but it will be nice to know if you like them. So yeah, speak to you later. Bye.